Hello, good evening. Tonight on Joynews Prime, as eager voter ID applicants disregard COVID-19 protocol, some residents in Choko right here in Accra fear there could be a spike in coronavirus cases.
Some of them are not even having their nose masks and they are even shouting. So I hope the authorities should do something about it, because all the health protocols, almost 90% of the health protocols have been abused.
More controversy. Allegations of bashing people from other constituencies characterize day 2 of voter registration in the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency right here in Accra.
COVID-19. Why do you bust people? They were not even respecting social distancing. Then you bust people up and you bring them to come and register for you.
The subject. We'll go into detail into it, and we will look at who is telling the truth. Well, today, we also would have to mark 6 years of Occupy Flagstaff House. You all know that hashtag. It was a demonstration by people from Ghana's middle class and the category of the demographics of citizens. Now, has anything changed? And we'll talk to some of the members of the movement.
I'm working like a bull and I'm paying my taxes. The government got to work like a bull as well and make sure that my road is fixed, that I have electricity, that I have water. That is their job. It is not for me to tell the president how to fix the economy. If he didn't know how to fix the economy, why did he run for office?
Well, you can call it a throwback Wednesday, but we also do have real news for you in business. Sandra?
Yes, Roland, with the postponement of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was expected to begin today, we take a look at where that leaves African trade in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic.
Also in the bulletin, we'll take you to the Eastern region, where a lone health worker at the only clinic at Hinhaji in the Afram Plains area is begging for support just to get a solar-powered refrigerator to preserve medicines for the people. Well, I'm sure that you can also help.
After every section, I had to go back to the to put the vaccines back into the fridge. So you can imagine the difficulties. During that time too, the weather is not conducive for traveling on the lake.
My name is Roland Walker, but we're also live here in our studios in Kokomemle on digital address GA 70992539, and also you can catch us live on digital terrestrial television because we're also free to air. The bulletin is also live on DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. Stay tuned. And we are your election headquarters. Now, some residents of Choko in the Ablekuma South constituency fear there could be a spike in coronavirus cases following the disregard for COVID-19 protocols. Now, persons who trooped to the Blessed Assurance Registration Center failed to respect social distancing, with some of them also not wearing face masks. Now, the situation was, however, different from what we observed on the first day at the City Engineers Registration Center in the Ododo-Diodio constituency. Now, persons without face masks were asked to go for them before they get registered. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
Disappointingly, here at the Blessed Assurance Registration Center, social distancing is not really happening. Many of the people here have started wearing their masks after they've seen our cameras. But what we observed when we came here was that some of them had it in their pocket, some of them were wearing it under their chins. In fact, many of them were not wearing their masks. Social distancing, it's a big problem here.
Social distancing poor. Nose masks, no. Washing of hands, I am not seeing it. But what I'm seeing really, what I'm seeing really is the thermometer gun. The thermometer gun is being applied.
Okay.
But for the social distancing, you can even see from the cameras that it is not the best. And some of them are not even having their nose masks, and they are even shouting.
David Anna,
yeah.
Okay. Are you a resident here?
Yes, I'm a resident here. We advise most of them to wear it because the thing is very dangerous. The sickness is very dangerous. But to my opinion, I have only one problem to say. This kind of queue is unnecessary. To me, it's very unnecessary. Because why the government didn't want to use the whole one?
I am an official for a political party, right? When people in Choco respected social distancing before, no. It's a problem that they always, you see, it's a problem we have here. They won't respect it. This is Choco for you.
Okay, we are here at the City Engineers Registration Center 1 and 2. And as you can see, some persons have gathered here outside the presence of the registration center. So, this lady standing here is one of the people deployed here, one of the health persons deployed here to this particular registration center. Hi.
I'm here to check the temperature and to record any case which is beyond me.
Okay.
So I quickly check their temperature before they go wash their hands, then they proceed to the next level.
I've been speaking to the Jamestown District Crime Officer, ASP Williams Kalami. He says they are enforcing the strict wearing of the face mask here. Persons who show up at this registration center without a face mask are asked to go home, get one before they return.
So far today is very calm as compared to yesterday. Because initially yesterday there was a problem which was resolved leading to late start of the program. So people were agitating. But today everything is smooth. I think with the programs we put in place, everything is very smooth. The role of the police is very simple, to maintain law and order so that the exercise moves on smoothly.
Okay. Are you also checking whether people are complying with the social distancing protocol and the wearing of face masks? Are you also doing that here?
Yes, of course. You know, we are faced with a pandemic. And we must make sure we are all safe. So we see to it that people come with face masks. The social distances should also be observed. So we are ensuring that it is observed.
What about those who come without face masks? What happens to them?
Yeah, personally, I have even spotted some people who were not wearing face masks, and I advised them and sacked them, and they went back and came back in there.
Okay. So if you come here without face masks, you'll be sacked and asked to go and get one?
Yes, sure.
Moving on, the executives of the NDC are accusing the Member of Parliament for the area of busing people from other constituencies to register in the ongoing exercise. And we're talking about the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency. Now, constituency chairman Bismarck Abobi Aite claims the Member of Parliament for the constituency, Lydia Al-Hassan, is bringing people from other adjoining areas such as Ayawaso East and North, La Dadekotopong, Kwabenya and Somanya, among many other areas. Addressing a press conference in Accra, he called on the Electoral Commission to intervene in the matter.
Tempers flare. Even the COVID-19 pandemic would not slow down the politics. Obviously, the social distancing protocol to stop the spread of COVID-19 has been disregarded. The NDC constituency chairman of Ayawaso West Wogon, Bismarck Abobi Aite, is upset. He claimed MP for Ayawaso West Wogon, Lydia Al-Hassan, is busing people from other constituencies such as Ayawaso East and North, La Dadekotopong, Kwabenya, and Somanya, among other areas.
It's all about Lydia Al-Hassan. What Lydia Al-Hassan is doing, which is inimical to the process, is that she is importing people from other constituencies. Okay, Ayawaso North, Ayawaso East, Ladadekotopon, Kwabenya, all the adjoining constituencies of Ayawaso West Wogon. Above all, she's bringing people from Ada, she's bringing people from Somanya, she's bringing people from Atiavi, she's bringing people from Eastern region as far as Isawem. This morning we had a hint that there was 2 buses coming from Isawem, being MPP people they are bringing to come and register. So we went and we intercepted the car. What we are saying is that it is wrong. We are in an elite community. Ayawaso West Wogon constituency is the most elite community in Ghana. So allow the people, the grown-ups there, people who have businesses there, to determine who should be their MP. But if you go and import the youth from other constituencies to come and elect MP for us, then you are not being fair. It's an insult to the integrity and the willpower of the people residing in this constituency.
He added the NDC would resist attempts to register people from other constituencies.
What you are doing is illegal, it's wrong, it doesn't fall within the remits of CI 126. So media, we are entreating all of them. Those near and far, they should stop coming. When you come, we will challenge you and we will make sure that you don't get your card. Your name will be removed from the register, meaning that you have wasted your time. Above all, COVID-19. Why do you bust people? They were not even respecting social distancing. Then you bust people up and you bring them to come and register for you without respecting the social protocol that the government is preaching.
And we've been trying as much as possible to reach the MPP chairman for the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, Mr. Jeffrey Osei, to get some responses on those accusations. But talking about social distancing protocols, all are related to COVID-19. And also, we do know Ghana's COVID-19 total case count is now pegged at some 17,741. This was after some 390 new cases were added since the last update. The current active cases now stand at 4,631 officially. But there are some key questions to ask. Do you know that some 25% of Ghana's coronavirus total case count, which is numbered some 4,435, was recorded in the last 10 days? That's very key in the analysis, because that analysis is also coming from a pharmacist and a fellow with CDD Ghana. Dr. Kwame Siedu-Sapong with CDD has been keenly analyzing Ghana's coronavirus statistics. Well, we have to dig deep into the subject. He is now joining me on stream, on Zoom. And let me ask you this key question. You projected that the infection rate could pass the 7,000 mark in the next 20 days. Based on what analysis or trends you've observed? Can you unmute for me, Doc? Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks for having me. You realize that I did regress the data, and what I'm speaking to is that your active case count builds based on two parameters. The first is your new cases, and the second is your recoveries. So at any point in time, you're looking at the net increase, which is your new cases minus your recoveries. So though we are over 400 when it comes to our new cases in average in the last 10 days, the net is about 200 plus. And considering that we are around 4,300 with our active cases, if we continue with 200 plus on a daily basis, then you are expecting 2,000 cases plus in the next 10 days. If you add that to our 4,000, then you are going to around 7,000 new cases. And this is what I'm talking about. But underpinning this data is the fact that we are recording over 400 cases a day in the last 10 days. And so 25% of all our cases of COVID have been reported in 10 days as a country. And that should scare us, because if our positivity percentage keeps increasing, at the rate it's been increasing, then God knows what we'll be looking at 8 weeks, 10 weeks down the line.
Yeah. But Dr. Seydu, if you look at regression analysis, overages are very important. And you are looking at just a period of 10 days. But preceding those 10 days ultimately would mean that there would have been some infections and daily averages before those periods. Have those considerations been made or factored in this regression analysis?
Yes, that's why I'm talking about 200 plus and not the 400 plus, because I have carried in our recoveries and our new cases. And I'm looking at the trend of our active cases, which is the differential between the two.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is yes, I have looked at that. And so I'm looking at 200 plus a day, or 233, which is the actual number a day for the next 10 days, and adding it, because we are not going to depreciate our current active case number. And if anyone has cared to realize, since there was the rebasing of our discharge definition, when our active cases dropped to 3,900, or in fact 3,700, and started rising to 3,900, you would realize that we have been appreciating to the point where we are at 4,300 now. So this is not without those anomalies being factored for.
Well, Dr. Seydu, you do know that people in government will come after you. You do know that.
Oh, they always do, and that's fine.
Right.
You see, let me situate that. People in government would come after me is a brilliant thing. Every post I make on social media is public. And I dare all of you to go back to my post from when COVID landed in Ghana and look at the numbers we've been putting out and tell me which one has been too far from accurate. So if people are still coming after me from the 12th of March when we had our first two cases, knowing the projections we've put out, and still want to go on that tarry, dodgy path, I welcome them.
Okay.
This intellectual discourse.
Now, my last question, just in 30 seconds. I want to ask you this. We're having a mass number of people out there because it's a registration period. How much of a danger are we in?
Well, we are in danger because the closer the proximity of human interaction, the more likely of an infected person infecting the other one. And if you look at COVID, where the generational time, which is the time it takes for an infected person to infect another, be 1.5 days, I estimate that in about 11 days, we would have some interesting numbers coming up.
Like what numbers?
I wouldn't want to hazard, but I'll put out numbers probably tomorrow or the day after.
Well, I'll wait for it. Tomorrow, I'm hitting your Facebook page straight away. But thank you very much. With the CDDF fellow, that's also important because Dr. Seydu has done some analysis. It's in a very regressive form. So you get onto his Facebook page, you can follow many of the trends he's been putting out there and posting since March. But let's move on another subject, especially talking about governance issues. As Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domelevo begins his compulsory leave today. Now, the minority in Parliament says the President's Proceed on Leave Directive is an attempt by government to cover up alleged corruption associated with COVID-19 spending. According to the Vice Chair of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Edward Kale Ewoladeri, the government feels threatened by the presence of Domelevo due to alleged corrupt practices within the MPP government. The Lambusie Member of Parliament said the MPP government has failed so far in the fight against corruption. On Monday, President Akufo-Addo ordered the Auditor General to take accumulated leave of 123 days. The leave started from July 1, 2020. The minority in Parliament is unhappy about this development. The Vice Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Edward Kale Owola Derry, says government is threatened by the presence of Yao Domelevo due to alleged corrupt practices within the MPP government.
But if I were him, under the circumstances and what is happening in this country, it is very obvious and very clear to people today that it could not possibly just have been the case that Domelevo have to go on leave. There is an underpinning cause to this issue.
Which is?
That I believe should be the case. Mr. Joe, you work in an institution, and of course, it is no longer a new to anybody in this country that when Domelevo started being on government official net to account to the state and the kind of resistance and comments that came out, I wasn't surprised seeing that he's been directed to go on leave, and possibly, I know, they will not want Domelevo to come back. That is the indication. I can foresee that is what it is leading to. But ask yourself today, it is so shocking that the person who is fighting corruption, there are people who are thinking that they should rather fight this person, the one who is fighting. And if the president believed that, yes, we want to nip corruption in the bud, I thought Domelevo is one of the key persons in this country who should lead that crusade. And if the president actually believed in accountability, that he really wants to account to the good people of Ghana, Domelevo should be one individual who should lead this crusade. And if today this is the position of the president, it will then be so obvious to you that, and every Ghanaian, that there are issues the president will want to hide behind. But a Deputy Majority Whip, Matthew Nyindam, disagreed with the claims by the minority over alleged cover-up by government. He added that the acting Deputy Auditor General and the entire audit service as an institution is competent enough to work in the absence of the Auditor General, Yao Domelevo. It is not just about proceeding on leave. The president has asked him to take his accumulated leave. We all know that if man is working, man must rest. And I think it is not out of order for the president to ask the Auditor General to have an accumulated leave. Apo is not the Auditor General as an individual, it is the institution. So the fact that he is going on leave doesn't mean that he's gone away with the system called the Auditor General system. And for that matter, nobody should be fooled by saying that somebody is taking him out because he doesn't want corruption to be fought. In any case, there are other systems that are operating apart from the Auditor General system. So I will beg people that, look, the president has asked the man to take an accumulated leave. So be it.
We do know that a number of civil society organizations, including the Ghana Integrity Initiative, have been meeting to, among others, discuss the implication of the president directive. Well, as we move on and dig deeper into some of these issues, we'll have to take a break. But before we take that break, let's ask those who have been advocating the subject of corruption and anti-corruption. And we do have on the line co-chair for the anti-corruption organization, Citizen Movement Against Corruption, Adam Senano is joining me. Good evening to you. We have to take a look at this. These accusations by the Member of Parliament, are they forthright?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Which accusations are those you're referring to?
The Member of Parliament is raising issues about government's commitment to the fight against corruption and how it has been tarnished by this directive given by the President.
Well, to raise concerns about this is a very valid thing because we are wondering whether this was the best way to go. We think that it's a dangerous precedent because if presidents begin to order the heads of independent institutions of state to go on leave, what happens one day when somebody else, the electoral commissioner, could be sent by a president home? We think this should have been managed much better, especially given the particular portfolio Mr. Domelevo handles and the issues at stake. So it's a relevant concern. We don't know whether, I can't say that it punishes completely or whatever, but it is of great concern to us.
Now, for you, civil society organizers, especially working in governance and anti-corruption, as you met, was this a subject of discussion as well? And what were some of the conclusions that you reached?
Oh, it's a major enough consensus that next week we will be in business talking. We are likely to have a press conference, and we have a number of actions. We need to have people look at this matter again and consider the implications for the future of this country.
As a way not to preempt what the content of that press conference will be, does it ultimately mean that you are calling on government to take a relook at this directive?
Absolutely. We are not sure that the president has been well advised. We think that the democratic credentials of our president are such that he needs to take a second look at this and the implications for good governance in this country. And so we will be making that request as well, amongst other things that we will be talking about.
The request that?
Oh, bring the Auditor General back.
But he's supposed to proceed on leave. 123 days he didn't take.
Well, we've already indicated there are issues with that. The labor law talks about how leave not taking is forfeited. So we are wondering how we can have a state of accumulated leave. We are wondering whether the president, the vice president, the electoral commissioner, others don't have accumulated leave. What are the implications of all of that? So it's not as simple as that. It's a slippery slope. We need to be very careful and cautious.
Right. What time is that press conference tomorrow? Who would like to be there?
It's supposed to be, we are looking at Tuesday. So you'll hear from the coalition in due course.
Well, I think Tuesday is even far, but don't worry, we'll still be there.
You can keep engaging us, and definitely we're trying to make sure that we are not just having a talk shop. We want people to understand that, look, the implications. Let's not just do things anyhow. Let's think through them and make sure that the laws of the land allow us to guide this nation forward in a way that collectively we are proud of.
Well, that's Adam Senanu, and Adam Senanu is an anti-graft or anti-corruption campaigner. He's co-chaired the Citizen Movement Against Corruption, and he says they're having a press conference on Tuesday. We'll wait for that, but we have to take a break. But still on tonight, well, it is 6 years today since the hashtag became viral. We're talking Occupy Flagstaff House. It was a demonstration by people from, well, Ghana's middle class. But 6 years on, what has changed? We'll talk to some of these members. Oh, it's now time to talk some money. And the money lady is here. How are you?
Yep, Roland, I'm very well. And you?
Chalade, will they hustle through?
Yes, Roland, I know, okay, let me ask you, do you know that the African Continental Free Trade was supposed to start today?
Yeah, I do.
All right, and you know it's been postponed?
Yes, I read that today.
All right, so let me leave you. We'll do that in business. That's what we have in business.
Wow, great.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Estinam Up, and I'm here for business. Let's do business now. And today, July 1, 2020, would have marked a new trade chapter on the African continent, the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was scheduled to kickstart today. But that did not happen due to COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to impact lives, trade, and businesses worldwide. Secretary General Wemkele Mene recently announced a postponement, but did not state a new commencement date. Well, how will this setback further deepen the woes of the continent already struggling to stay afloat economically in these hard times? Coordinator of CAT International Policy Think Tank, Advocate Apia Kusi Adomako joins me via Zoom for a conversation on this very important topic. Thank you so much, as always, for joining Mr. Apia.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and your viewers.
Right. So this is expected to boost about 60% intra-African trade by 2020. But hey, it's not happening, and we don't even know the new dates yet. How is this bad for the continent, and how is it going to impact intra-African trade?
The pandemic has caused a lot of inconvenience to global trading. And with this issue, the African Union has decided to defer the commencement of the trading to next year. No new firm date has come yet, but we are very sure that within the second quarter, latest by the second quarter of 2021, trading will start. And of course, it also gives member countries time to patch up all outstanding issues with regards to rules of engagement and other protocols that have not been finalized. But again, this deferment has also taken away the kind of enthusiasm that we African countries had prior to the virus. But I want to say that though the AFCFTA is not starting, at the regional level, people are trading because from Ghana to Togo, trucks are moving. And ECOWAS has ensured that we allow goods to be able to move across borders.
But not in the volumes that you expect. I mean, it's not as we used to have or what you expect to happen. I mean, the trading across the borders in volumes that you're talking about.
Yes, of course, the COVID restriction has also affected volume of produce that can come out from various assembly lines. And so, but at least it's still a sign of encouragement because here, when you go to a market in Accra, for example, you can get the Burkinabe tomatoes. And it tells you that we are still trading. And goods from South Africa can still come into the country through the airport. And so I think nothing has been lost that much with the deferment of the trading across member countries. I know that at least it's also giving member countries that were not very strong, that didn't have a very strong productive capacity. This crisis has also allowed them to step up their manufacturing base, waiting for the actual commencement of the trading. So I think it has in it some blessing and also some curse. And I think that we need to look at the positive side of what this crisis has brought to us.
But what will you say to critics and then experts who have said that at this crucial time where a lot of countries are struggling economically with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's better to kickstart so that it kind of lessen the impact on member states, but delaying it is not the right thing to do. What do you make of that as well?
I do agree that by allowing countries to trade without any restriction would have been the best. But you know that goods cannot move without human beings. So, but I think all these things are all in the interest of public safety because there's so much ahead of us. So there's no point in causing people to die from this pandemic. And then once you actually open trading next year, people will not be there to trade. So I think that we are treading on the side of caution. And even with the limited inter-regional trader or cross-border trader we have, I think they are all signs of encouragement that for the best thing to come 2021.
You mentioned that we're looking like, let's say, somewhere around first quarter of 2020, but the Secretary General, Wem Many, actually, when he made that announcement of the postponement, didn't even give any date. Does that paint a glowing picture of the situation currently when it comes to COVID-19 management and the impact on the various economies on the continent?
I don't think the COVID paints a gloomy picture for Africa. I think for Africa, our resilience to disease is so strong compared to other continents. And I think the reason why the AU has also not come up with a fixed date for the commencement of the trading is that we are also waiting for the news of vaccine, so that once you have that information, you can then be able to plan effectively. But still, AU is still urging member states to be able to trade among themselves and open special corridors for goods to be able to come, so that we will not die as a result of shortages of goods, shortage of goods.
So 54 out of 55 member countries currently included in the free trade area. Eritrea is the only country that is not part. Are you expecting them to join because of all that is happening on the continent and globally when we resume trading, commencement of the continental free trade area?
Yes, we expect Eritrea to join, and I'm even encouraged that by the mass number of countries in Africa that have subscribed to the agreement. You know, when the U.S. started as a United States of America, there were only 13 states that signed up the treaty in Philadelphia, and then by now 50 states now. So the 51 states that we have is kind of encouragement to us, and I believe that Eritrea would probably join before trading commences next year.
What will you want to see differently when this whole process begins? What do you want to see? There were issues. Some countries were supposed to meet some protocols before commencement. Some were not able to do it, and some were still in the process. What will you want to see put together to say, yes, we are ever ready to kickstart this whole process?
Yes, I think this crisis gives countries a lot of time to be able to cross their T's and dot their I's to do all their preparatory work. In fact, in Ghana here, we've done an assessment of the private sector readiness for AFCFTA, that report comes out next month of August. And so I think countries need to be able to check their productive capacity to ensure that once the borders are open, they will be able to trade. And also on the part of the AU, we also expect AU to be very firm with the rules of the game, so that if a country, for example, decides to close its borders to trading, then the laws has to be applied proportionally. Unlike the current ECOWAS system, whereby you can have a big brother decide to unilaterally close its borders to goods and services.
Ms. Apiakwusi Aduma, coordinator of CART International, I want to say a big thank you as always for joining me on that important conversation. But Roland, that will be all for the first part of business. But certainly when I come back, we do have a lot of business to do. And I want to find out for you how eager you are to fly out of the country. Are you as eager as I am?
We get the right visas and airfares are paid.
Right, we'll be talking about the aviation industry when I return after 8 p.m. Roland.
Charlie, I'll be looking forward to it, Sandra. And that was a good conversation as well. But we have a lot of sporting action for us to take a look at, but it's always in Europe that the excitement is always. And what a way for us to catch up with the latest. We'll do sports next, and then after we'll do some great showbiz news with Uruku and Becky respectively. And I have Becky here already. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Ro.
Great. You look beautiful this evening.
Thank you.
What's up? What have you been up to? What do you have for us for sports?
Okay, so yesterday around this time, Benedict and I were here discussing what the impact of the GFA's decision to cancel the football season would be on all football stakeholders. Well, we have gotten some more in-depth information as to the financials and how that would affect GFA. Taking into account that they are currently being sponsored by MTN for the FA Cup and then StarTimes being the exclusive TV rights. Well, the association reviewed earlier today that they would be losing an excess of $2.2 million after cancelling the football season. And that seems to be a lot of money, but there is more in this report.
You can go ahead with it, especially those issues about funding.
To fetch you the report, and you would see in that in terms of the payments made so far, and StarTimes had also made some partial payment as to do you remember that had been spread across 5 years of $5.5 million, and MTN also paying about $1.1 million in terms of their sponsorship as well, paying 800,000 cedis of that in cash and 300,000 cedis in product as well. In terms of the development also, according to the regulations for the CAF Interclub competitions that's supposed to take place next season, since there was no promotion, no title winner, and then no relegation, the GFA decided that Asante Kotoko and Ashgood would be the best fit for Ghana and Africa. So Asante Kotoko will be representing the country in the CAF Champions League, And then for the CAF Confederations Cup, Ashgold would be doing that as well. One that has thrown in some amount of controversy, especially with Gianna Stars for Yahya Mohammed, who was vying for the Golden Boot. That's the top scorer this season, coming out to say that he thinks that Adriana and Mediama are rather better prepared than Asante Kotoko and Ashgold. But that's the GFA's decision, and we'll be seeing those two teams in Africa next season. But before we go, there was a bit of sad news coming in earlier this morning as Ghana lost the first of her 10 boxing world champions in the former WBO bantamweight champion Alfred Cobra Cote in the US of A. Now, he threw in the towel after a long battle with illness, and confirming to Joy Sports, the Secretary General of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Patrick Johnson, he said that Cote had battled the illness for some time now. Now, Cote had reportedly suffered a stroke in the midst of some complications and eventually had to be placed on life support. Now, in the 90s, Cote belonged to a new era of youthful and skilled boxers who were to continue the legacy of Ghana's first world champion, David Cote. That's DK Poison, who opened the way in the 70s. Azuma Nelson and Nana Yakunedu following, then came Alfred Cote, and then Cobra Cote and Ike Bazooka Cote, who were to be christened as Ghana's boxing whiskies. Now, in November 2016, the then president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, commissioned the iconic Bukum Boxing Arena under the Trust Sports Emporium, and Ghana's 10 boxing world champions, including Cote, have stands named after them. On the night, Cote was presented with the presidential citation of honor for his achievement in the sports. So from the Joy Sports desk, we do send our condolences to the family of Alfred Cote. But that wraps it up for the sports segment. My name is Umi.
All right, Roko. That was a good one. And already we do know that it's just about some 34 minutes in that match. West Ham and Chelsea. And already West Ham have taken the lead against my team. Oh, Charlie, sad. But that'll be it for sports. And we have to talk entertainment. The Showbiz lady, beautiful Becky, is here. What has dominated the headlines over the last, I believe, a day or so has been Jada Pinkett, apparently.
Yeah.
They have this open relationship. I would want to have an open relationship.
I had wanted to ask you
only that my mother and father will not agree, and my wife will have some great difficulties with it.
Yeah, but they did. I mean, before we come to Jada, okay. Let's talk about Tiny.
What's happened to him?
Apparently, he tested positive for COVID-19. That was confirmed by another musician.
I think he'll be the first in
He'll be the first person in Ghana, celebrity-wise, to have confirmed or to have come.
Oh, Gary.
Oh yeah, Gary. Oh, Gary's in the media.
Yeah.
So it was confirmed by another musician, Nee Fanny, and we wish Roland, we wish Tiny all the best. We pray that he recovers soon. Can you imagine?
Please recover.
Yeah,
speedily.
He will.
Right. And then which other one do you have?
Let's also go ahead and talk about Nigeria's Genevieve Nnaji, who has joined the Oscars. Now, the Nigerian actress and director Genevieve Nnaji has been invited to be a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the organization which hands out the Oscars. This means she will be able to vote for Oscar winners and comes months after her own film was disqualified as a submission. Nnaji starred and directed in Lionheart, which was Nigeria's first ever Oscar submission for Best International Feature Film in 2019. So, Roland, back to...
And Lionheart is a beautiful film.
Beautiful.
It's always on Netflix.
Yes. Speaking of Netflix, we'll talk about Netflix later, but let's talk about Jada Pinkett. So she's come out to deny claims that...
Oh, so we're just TMZ rumors.
So, TMZ is actually telling us that Jada came out to say that she, there's nothing really going on. She says, according to TMZ, Jada Pinkett Smith has denied claims that she and August Alsina had an affair blessed by her husband, Will Smith. During an interview in the Breakfast Club's Angela Yee, Alsina opened up about the alleged affair that had been speculated for years. The Nunya musician claimed the power couple has an open marriage and that Will knew about the relationship. Representatives for Pinkett Smith tell TMZ those claims are absolutely not true. Alcina's comments came after he denied rumors circulating about the affair in 2019. So now, Roland, let's go quickly and take Alcina's comments that has made everybody, you know,
wondering
what's going on. Ow.
Black Lives Matter.
I know, that's a very touching story.
Alcina really came to light, and then just 6 years ago, I got to know about his song, Don't Forget About Me. I guess futuristically was looking forward to get that picture. Don't forget about me. So,
but let's talk about Rex Oma. Do you know Rex Oma? Which of his songs are your favorite? We're celebrating him tonight.
Abiba.
Yeah.
I'm an old man, so I know all the songs.
Yes, yeah. Rex Oma.
Right. There was something on Netflix you say you forgot about.
You have Bozeman. She's Ghanaian.
Oh.
She's been
She's worked for
marketing.
Uber.
Yeah, she's been appointed as marketing manager for
great,
Netflix.
man.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Congratulations to her.
One day you'll be appointed.
I tell you.
Charlie, receive it.
Amen.
Well, one thing I also receive as a fan of Chelsea, that much between Chelsea and West Ham, you know, it was a penalty, but, you know, VAR and the naughty thing that technology does, yeah, overruled. Yeah, so, but they do have a goal scored through a penalty, Chelsea, I mean, so it's 1-0 against West Ham. I tell you, I can give you all the sporting updates. But 6 years ago, it was a moment of hashtags, and 6 years today, the hashtag was trending, Occupy Flagstaff House. It was because of a demonstration led by a cross-section of people from Ghana's middle class. That action on a rainy Republic holiday in 2014 has been described as one of the turning points on the involvement of ordinary citizens, so to speak, in speaking up against corruption, high utility prices at the time, power outages and bad governance. But great questions again emerge. 6 years on, what has changed? Well, before we get into all that, let's watch what transpired that day.
Well, today we are at the Efia Sutherland Park, where a civil society group calling itself Concerned Ghanaians for Responsible Governance is embarking on a peaceful demonstration, and their aim is to demand accountable governance from the President John Dramani Mahama.
Social media Facebook Twitter Google Plus
The group is made up of intellectuals, and they are raising concerns about failed leadership, untold economic hardship and corruption as some of the challenges facing this country. These protesters converged here as early as 6 a.m. today, Republic Day, 3rd July 2014, and they are calling on the President John Dramani Mahama to sit up and address the problems of this country.
There are basic things in life: water, health, okay, energy, education, okay, transportation. And the bad leadership has affected every part of it.
My business has dipped. The currency has depreciated. You can't even get it to buy. You can't pay our staff. You know, you're thinking of laying off your staff. Now it's actually tough.
The total denigration of the office of the president, the total lack of respect that in bulk, in mass, individually, Ghanaians now experience when you talk about issues pertaining to governance, government, the president.
This thing that, you should show respect. The other man is stealing, he's killing you. Why do you have to show respect to him? In Brazil, what happened? If the young man called Sule Muntari was not brave enough to slap somebody, do you think we would have known what was going on? No.
For me, it was very reminiscent of the 70s during a Champions time, which were really bad times, where we all slept at the petrol station. So that's indication that, you really need to get up and talk about it, because we cannot, as a nation that deserves so much more, come to this level.
As I said earlier, the arrangement was that they should not come closer to this point. There's so much traffic because the road is virtually blocked. The protesters have totally taken over the road, and the police are really not going to allow. I think they have arrested somebody who was resisting the police from doing their duty. Where is he getting physical at this point?
Nothing seems to work. Our salaries are the same. Once everything seems to go downhill. Now the people have come out to protest to the government and asking government to do something, stabilize the currency, stabilize the economy. And what are we meeting? We are meeting the police who are insisting that, okay, you know what, they wouldn't let us go and present our views.
We want swift action. And so if within a reasonable time we do not see change, we do not see results, we would gather again and embark on this constitutionally guaranteed right to protest. We shall do so till we see change.
Well, we told you we'll have some of them in that video right here. They lived the moment and live in the moment now. J-Jom Sagbafia, a spokesperson, Occupy Ghana, and well, Ato Apia is also an entrepreneur, and also Kanita Groves, a psychologist, and Golda Na Adaku Ado, a consultant. Well, Ato has not come yet, but I do have Sagbafia as well as. Yeah, Golda, I remember you from the video. You said the currency had not depreciated or was appreciating. And then we have Ato now. So now let's have a bigger conversation, okay? Yeah, this is real-time conversation. And Sagbafia, you are the spokesperson of Occupy Ghana. Would you say that if you look at the situation then for which you were protesting, things have improved for the better?
Well, at the time, we had terrible governance. We were all wondering if you speak any Ghana at all, whether Unupa, Beshialo, and we were, you know, a lot of the people within the middle class at that time, we stayed out of politics or the appearance of politics because it was an environment where insults were the currency that was traded in. And none of us wanted to come again. The display of incompetence, outright mediocrity in the way government was handling issues of the time. And this was a spontaneous movement. People, especially using social media as a tool, gathered, did not know each other, or if they knew each other at all, only barely, decided to take onto the streets and speak a language that they were hoping government at the time would understand, in order to send out their grievances against mediocrity, against bad governance, against outright corruption, and trying to, you know, generate that kind of a conversation that will get government at the time to understand that we were going to be the change we wanted to see, and we weren't afraid to hit the street to make that happen. 6 years down the line, we believe that a lot has happened. 3 things happened ever since that first Occupy Flagstaff House demonstration. Some people left and never returned. Some people gathered and decided to push, you know, the agenda forward in a different way. And some decided that it wasn't worth their time anymore, going to look at it from a very more militant perspective. And so all in all, it's been a great 6 years if we begin to track all the successes that have occurred as a result. Roland.
Golda, we've seen the currency depreciate significantly. At the time, how much was it? Just unmute for me. Golda, try and unmute.
Yes, sorry. You are crediting me with the wrong statement. I spoke about a complete lack of responsibility and a complete lack of sensibility towards the needs of the citizenry. I don't recall mentioning the currency, but definitely yes. I mean, when it comes to inflation issues, things have changed. I don't recall the currency exchange rates then as compared to now, but definitely it's gone higher. What has changed from then since then till now? I disagree a bit with JJ that, there's been a lot going on in the positive vein since we occupied the streets that day. I think that now that a lot more of them are in the position to actually do something because they are now in the system, we should really be seeing a lot more improvements in, even if not immediate results, in the structures, the frameworks, the systems that are being used to feed the same problems. But we are not seeing that. We're not seeing that. And for me, it calls for a lot to be closely assessed, to ask ourselves, did we waste our time on that day?
You sound disappointed.
It's no secret. Anybody who knows me or follows my timeline knows that, to me, I think that we were taken over by people with self-seeking interests. And over time, it's been evidenced through the numbers of them who have gotten into government positions, who have not really contributed anything actively to improve the situation. We keep hearing of explanations and excuses, and we keep getting comparisons with the Mahama regime, but nobody is really addressing the issue and improving the situation on the ground.
Let me get to you, Ato. Ato, you've joined us, haven't you? Ato?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, how is everybody? Great to see JJ, Golda, and Kanita.
Yeah, are you still in Ghana?
I'm not in Ghana currently.
Where do you
out of the country.
Where you are domiciled abroad?
I don't know if you want to use the word domiciled. I came to the US in March, and I've not been able to come back because of border closures and things like that.
Well, it means that life has been...
But I'm not stranded.
It means that
one foot in Ghana.
It means that life has been good. You've just been crisscrossing continents. And from all the concerns that you had raised in that video there during that march, you seem to be very much far away from all the difficulties enumerated by your colleague at that march, Golda.
Well, I only just came to the US in March. I mean, before this march, I hadn't been in the US for 5 years. So I understand a lot of the issues that, drove this Occupy Flagstaff House march. And I just want to say something quick, because I remember, 2014 was very interesting, what I remember was we had this fuel shortage, which for me is like the worst thing we've ever seen in Ghana. I mean, we've seen Doomsaw, we've seen like a whole bunch of issues, but fuel shortage was just, we can't believe this is happening in this country. So I think that really drove, the demonstration. And what I really liked about what was happening was I saw a lot of people who were, apolitical or, were not, part of, some of the major political parties participating in that. And I also remember clearly that when we had the march, politicians who came to the march were booed. That's one of the things I love the most about the march. Obviously, since then, we've seen that some of these people who were at the march have ended up in this current government, which is disappointing for a lot of people. But we've also seen that, Occupy Ghana exists in one shape or form. JJ is here to speak on their behalf. We've seen Citizen Ghana movement created by some of the people who participated in this march. And we've seen other, groups that I believe are apolitical, who are trying to ensure that the right thing is done for Ghana. So, and then there's also the Economic Fighters League, right? I don't think they existed when this march happened. But I know some of their members were part of the march.
Right.
So definitely, we've seen more citizen activism and protests in Ghana since. It's probably not where we need it to be. If we just compare ourselves to some countries on the African continent, we need to increase this. And we need to take more responsibility as citizens for getting the government to do what is in the best interest of Ghana.
Right. And Kanita, if you look at some of the individuals there, we have Ken Ofori-Atta, who is now the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, the Finance Minister. We have Yofi Grant, now the Honorable Yofi Grant. And some of you have ended up not in government. Well, critics will say they are enjoying the largesse of state, and you're still lurking in the shadows. They've benefited.
Us?
No, I'm talking to Kanita. Kanita, just unmute.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Kanita. Would you say?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Did you hear me, Kanita?
Yes. Yes, I heard you.
Okay, so respond to that.
Well, you know, Chinua Achebe in his book, when he talks about Nigeria and the problem with Nigeria, one of the things he comments on in terms of political and government corruption is that when being in politics becomes something that is lucrative, and at the core, we have to change that. We have to turn it into something that is not lucrative. I'm afraid that we have perhaps unintentionally created the monsters that we love to hate.
Mm. So you've created more monsters out of the period?
Oh, absolutely, because we've turned politics into something that is highly lucrative. And when you do that with any type of venture or any type of entity, it's going to attract the worst in us. And this is what we're seeing. And through no ill intention of our own, I think a good part of this, that what we're observing, not just only in Ghana, but across the board, is what happens when you create a government or a political structure that is extremely lucrative and that allows people to have unnatural perks, unnatural amnesty, unnatural being unaccountable to people. The saying, as we all have heard, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's not absolute power, but it is certainly enough to, as our sister said, to quell these movements. And when you think about it, representing the people should not be motivated by these types of events. It should be obvious. It should be common sense to leaders. This is what they're trained to do. This is a part of their specialty, to be able to anticipate and know these things beforehand. People should not have to get out into the street and drive government and politics to do the right thing.
Right.
It should be common sense.
Right. Rashid, how can you relate your reality now with your reality then, whether it's less or greater? Rashid, Golda, let me pose that question to you. Okay, your reality now and your reality then.
Really, I would say that I'm probably a bit more unsurprised. Back then, I would say I had a bit more energy than I did now for challenging the wrongs in society. I would go about more social media engagements. Now I'm simply focusing on putting my money into supporting people who can grow to actualize the change we want to see on the ground. It might not be now. God forbid, maybe it might not be in my lifetime. But I think that I've studied it quietly enough to see the ways in which I can impact better. And I've chosen to approach it from that angle now instead of trying to constantly engage, because the engagement goes nowhere. Our constitution has completely shielded and protected the very people who are cannibalizing us. And it makes absolutely zero sense to keep banging our heads against a wall that is going to end up cracking our skulls instead of breaking that wall down. So my strategy has shifted.
Yeah. And if I have to come to you, Sajofia, would you say, Jejom, would you say that you were just a springboard and would you have organized or would you organize such an event again today?
So, Roland, first, I wasn't addressing the matter of whether there has been an improvement in governance. I was addressing the matter of whether there had been an improvement in the movement. And the movement was to bring about change and to cause government to pay attention. Now, we had two ways of doing this. After Occupy Flagstaff House came into being, some members, some of them were at the demonstrations, others were not, decided to come together and form what has now become Occupy Ghana. And the basic aim was to ensure good governance, to resist corruption and oppression wherever we found it, and to be the voice for the people who really wanted to see change. And so long as that movement is concerned, we can say that that movement has been a powerful one and it has gotten results. I'm not addressing the issue of, for example, has government improved since then? No, government hasn't. Okay, but has the movement to hold governments accountable improved? Yes. Now, we had two ways to handle this. We could do it the militant way, or we could find a very intelligent way of handling the issues that we have with government. Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, has no end to agitators. There's been enough choboi, there's been enough demonstrations, there's been enough agitations that the politicians have never listened to, because if there's anybody that can agitate better, it's the politicians.
All right.
As a matter of fact, if you want to hold a demonstration and a political party is not on your side, that demonstration will flop. And so we found a better way, a legal route to challenge government and to bring about the change that we have all been looking for.
Well, that'll be it for now. I wish I had enough time for us. Look, this conversation needs some 30 minutes for us to take a critical look at it. 6 years on, the hashtag Occupy Flagstaff House. We'll see how it goes. Let's take a couple of the comments on social media. And we pose this question. It's 6 years today since Occupy Flagstaff House, the demonstration, and it continues, was convened. So let's go to the comment section and read. I'm totally sad for Ghana. This one is coming from Etonam. It has worsened more than necessary. The media houses are to be blamed. You know, the truth, they are to be blamed. You know the truth, but refuse to speak up. That's why we are where we are and remain today. Reynolds Kwekunyako said, today we can enjoy our lives in peace. Doomsday is past and gone. There's free education for free education. Let me read the last one. I supported it and I hate myself for it. We were fooled by people who pretended they hated the system, not knowing they love the system. They only hated the fact that they weren't beneficiaries of the system. Let's go up a little bit so I can read the rest. They are now in the stealing more than it was or has been done in 2014 when they were shouting. Many of it. You can go to Joynews TV, and that's our official page on Facebook, and get all the updates there. But before we go, let's tell you about this. For the half-hour break, a lone health worker at the only clinic in the Afram Plains area in the eastern region is begging for support to get a total solar-powered refrigerator for the facility in which he works. Now, the Linhachi Chips compound has no electricity and, in fact, no refrigerator as a result to preserve medicines. A situation that puts the lives of the many hundred who seek medical care each year at risk. Here's a report by Joynews' own Justice Beidou.
Moses Ganke is one of the country's frontline health workers, going at it alone in one of the places where many of his mates would rarely go.
Talking about the challenges, in fact, if I want to start, I can say I may not even finish.
This is the island community of Linhachi. It has no electricity, no potable water, and no mobile telephony network. The only clinic here was built by the villagers themselves. Moses recalls how the lack of refrigerator for medicines affects the work that he does.
Just last month, I did 5 deliveries. During delivery, you have some emergencies or complications. And those drugs that you can use to ameliorate those situations are supposed to also to be kept under coating or in the refrigerator as well. But where is the fridge? The deliveries, you have to do it because you don't have enemies. By the time you say you are referring them, they might either deliver on the bank or on the lake.
He has to travel on the sometimes turbulent Afram River using a boat, a journey that sometimes could take up to 2 hours to the nearest community that has electricity every day to store medicines like vaccines.
The facility we are not having engine boats, so we have to rely on people who are having. They don't even have commercial boats that apply to where I store the vaccines. So I have to be begging them, making arrangements. So by the time they are done, it's almost getting to see something. I am appealing to the authorities, the government, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, and benevolent individual or Ghanaians. This one I'm not just appealing, I'm begging. In fact, I don't know if I should be on my knee, but maybe it will disturb your recordings. Otherwise, I will be on my knee. For them to come to our aid to save these innocent children.
Moses' story is like that of many health workers in remote communities across the country. He is hoping that something changes about that soon. Justice Baidu, Joynews, Helen Haji in the Afram Plains.
Hello again, let's do more business news. My name is Sandra and I'm doing this from home, and I'm sure many of you are eager, as I am, to travel once the borders are open. Well, at least we know that air travel is opening up slowly, and as domestic carriers here in Ghana begin operation amid threats of the coronavirus pandemic, they are making some adjustments to protect clients. What has changed, though? My colleague Charles Haite had the opportunity to observe strict safety protocols being enforced by one of the domestic airlines, Africa World. Yes, his reports.
Restrictions on movement has eased, and already domestic airlines are out for business.
This is Terminal 2 Departures Unit of the Kotoka International Airport. We're here on a particular mission. It's all about COVID-19 and the preparedness of the domestic airline sector as they open up to business. Remember that this is very crucial for them, as it's going to test their systems and how prepared they are amidst the coronavirus. Already you could see from the ground the various food stamps that are indicative of social distancing protocol. Already you could see around me how less busy the entire environment is. It even raises questions about the entire anxiety that most travelers are having in these uncertain times. Today is going to be an interesting day. I'm going to be taking a trip aboard the Africa World Airlines plane all the way to their new Takoradi route to get to know the social distancing protocols they are putting in place. It's going to be myself and my colleague from our sister station, Adum FM. Are you really ready for this trip?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
So what exactly are you hoping to see for yourself?
I'm trying to see that at least all the safety protocols that the President and the WHO have outlined will be in place.
That's great. So already we have our tickets for ourselves and we're ready to board. Come on board, let's see what exactly we're going to find.
We were granted access to the check-in section of Africa World Airlines. Here, passengers maintain their social distance. You will have to show your ID card to the attendant at a distance as they complete pre-departure formalities. For domestic airlines like Africa World Airlines, now is the time to win back the confidence of passengers. Profits are an afterthought. Sean Mendes is the Chief Executive Officer of Africa World Airlines.
We put in place a number of protocols. In fact, these are industry-leading protocols at various steps of the entire process, from when you arrive at the airport, where your temperature will be screened, where you will be ensured that you're wearing face masks, hand sanitizer is available at all various points. Your check-in process is contactless, where our staff do not come in contact with your documents. Your check-in baggage is disinfected prior to loading on the aircraft. You go through a contactless security procedure and boarding. All passengers have their hands sanitized before boarding the aircraft. Crew maintain, again, social distance from the passengers. We have not allocated. We ensure that no passengers have another adult sitting next to them. There are exceptions for children.
Touching down at the Takoradi Airport, a second phase of disinfection begins.
But there are questions in place. What happens if this becomes the norm for the next few years? How could these domestic airlines survive the pressure of having to spend more and get little in return? Are they going to seek specific incentives from government, or will the entire business be crumbling in no particular time? I'm Charles Ayete reporting for Joy Business.
Thank you so much, Charles, for that report. Hopefully we get some answers to those questions you raised. Away from that, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, wants government to consider a stimulus package for public transport operators. This follows protests by some commercial drivers in the Western region yesterday. These drivers have increased fares by about 30%, arguing the social distancing restriction in their vehicles was affecting their income margins. But COPEC believes government's incentive is ideal in this crucial time. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of OPEC, and he joins me via Zoom. Duncan, thanks so much for your time. That story you just saw, I'm sure you're confident to travel now with the safety protocols in place. Hello, Duncan, kindly unmute your volume for me.
Yes, this is done. Good evening, Sandra. Good evening to your viewers.
Yes, okay. So I was going to, on a lighter note, I was asking if the story you just saw, you are safe to travel now with those protocols in place.
Sandra, we probably have to live with COVID. And right. So the earlier we get used to getting our lives back to normal, the better. Once the protocols are observed and once people stick to what the WHO and the Ghana Health Service says we should all do, I believe we'll be able to go around and not necessarily infect ourselves or infect others. So I'm confident I wouldn't mind flying anytime soon if I have the chance.
I wouldn't mind myself. Anyway, to the main issue for tonight. Yesterday there was a protest in the Western region where commercial drivers raised a lot of concerns about the social distancing protocols in their vehicles and that they increased fares. Those were genuine concerns, right?
Sandra, yes. It will be difficult for any Ghanaian to, at this point, still expect that our commercial public transport operators would continue to charge the same fares that they were charging at the outset of this coronavirus issues. If you recall, we've also issued instructions that the public transport operators observe social distancing in these vehicles. What it means is that vehicles that ordinarily would have taken 20 or 30 passengers would have to reduce sometimes by 40, 50%. So as to observe the distance and within these public transport systems. Unfortunately, your fuel prices is also quite gaining in on them. And so while they are losing revenue on one side because they have to pick fewer than normal passengers, you are also expecting them to cough up more to pay for fuel at the same time. We are quite aware that the government has put in a lot of stimulus packages, even for SMEs in Ghana. Unfortunately, the informal sector.
Hello, Duncan. I think you're on mute again. I think your audio is on mute again, Duncan. If you can kindly unmute for me. Yes, great.
Things are just not okay, and they do have a lot of concerns. We do interact with them on a day-to-day basis. A lot of them would want to continue all of us to get to work and back safely. But as to whether or not we would be able to get on, there will be.
Duncan, looks like we're having issues with your audio. Keep muting. Hello, Duncan. Yes.
Within a very short span of time. Hello, Sandra. Yes.
Yes,
forgive me.
Your audio, yes, kept going off.
I'm having a few network challenges.
Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead, please. Yes, let me just ask you, point well made. Let me just ask you before we lose you again. You are asking for stimulus support for these transport operators. Specifically, what form of relief are you looking for?
Yeah, hello. Hello,
yes, Duncan, if you can hear. Yes, Duncan, I was asking that you are asking for a stimulus support for these transport operators. Specifically, what form of relief are you looking for?
Hello.
Yes, Duncan, if you can hear me, I was asking you earlier that your organization is calling for some form of support for these transport operators. Specifically, what would you want to see?
We would be happy if the government can at least reduce taxes on fuel for these public transport operators. If, however, we are also able to target their unions. My phone just went off.
Looks like we are having issues connecting with Duncan, but we had a lot to talk about, especially also now that oil prices have actually seen some best performance in the first quarter of this year. I mean, the best in 30 years, but unfortunately we are having issues with them. But let's do other stories and see whether we can connect back to them. Netflix has appointed Buzoma St. John as the streaming giant's chief marketing officer starting in August. St. John has been vocal about inequality in corporate America, and then she joins from entertainment and talent agency Endeavor, where she was the head of marketing since 2018. She also previously worked at Apple and Uber Technologies. Buzoma is the first Black female executive of Netflix, and her appointment comes at a time that the U.S. companies are looking to diversify their workplace. Netflix has also indicated that it will allocate 2% or about $100 million of its cash holdings to financial institutions and organizations that directly support African American communities in the United States. And away from that, Brent crude is gradually smiling again, selling today for $41.89 a barrel. Gold, however, lost by $13.61 to trade at $1,767.35 an ounce. The market figures are up next. All right, so unfortunately, we have to end it here, and unfortunately, we are unable to connect back to Duncan for those answers, but you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business for more business news updates. My name is Sandra S. and I'm up, and thanks so much for watching.
Moving on, 8 months after agitation and closure of shops suspected to be owned by foreigners, owners have been asked to avail themselves and also justify why their businesses should be opened following the closure of the shops back in December. A committee was set up to sanitize the Ghanaian retail market. Latif Idris witnessed the first day of the cleanup exercise by the committee and reports a number of shop owners are being evasive, partly because they do not have the required documentations.
In November 2019, Guta went round the business district of Accra, including this part of Accra that is a tiptoe lane, to close down shops suspected to be owned by foreigners. It's been over 7 months since that operation took place. Today, we have members of Guta, the police,
the Immigration Service and the GRA in a joint operation. They are going around pasting notices on the closed shops, notifying owners to come around and go through an assessment process for the shops to be reopened. I'm curious, so we are here to find out exactly what this whole operation is about.
To sanitize the retail market, and more especially within Circle here. Yes.
We know last year Guta went round to close some of the shops. They were suspected to be owned by foreigners. What has changed in that regard?
Okay, right. So it's a follow-up to the exercise we undertook previously as a result of Guta's agitation and concerns vis-a-vis because of that they closed the shops. We have to regularize, sanitize the process and make sure that we regularize the anomalies where it's possible to do so. So as we have come here, from the previous exercise, some shops, especially foreign shops or foreign owners, shop owners, they are not per the GIPC law and other laws. They are not supposed to operate within the market. The market. Yeah.
My shop is at the Tiptoe Lane. So since December, your shop has been closed. Right. How has that been for you as a business owner?
It has affected me a lot, and the whole family. It has affected me so bad. Yeah, I can't provide anymore for the family again because of the shop. That is my only source of income.
Eating from hands to mouth. It hasn't been easy. So it's a terrible situation that I went through. So, but I thank God for His grace, because His grace is sufficient for me. So I've been surviving by the grace of God.
The Trade Ministry is saying that some of you registered to be operating from Trade Fair, but your shops are found here. Do you fall within that category?
Listen to me. The issue of registering within Trade Fair or whatever, Register General is one in the whole Ghana. Let us zoom in maybe 2010 when you want to register. Your office has cited their Trade Fair. Then 2015, and you find a business location over there in Kanishi. What do? Are you going to do another fresh registration? The same document covers you the whole Ghana.
The owner.
Yeah, that is what
Latif Idris with that update. But we have to bring you the last round of sports. Oreku Ampofo is here with the latest. Oreku, what do we have?
Welcome to the sports segment, and my name is Oreku Ampofo, and we'll be starting off with some Ghana swimming news, where the Ghana Swimming Association has donated sanitizers and infrared temperature guns to its club members ahead of their restart. Now, remember that the president lifted the ban on non-contact sports about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so swimming, being part of these non-contact sports, could resume. Now, the swimming governing body donated the items to 8 clubs, which are the Marlin Swim Club, GH Dolphins, GH Aquatic Master, Legon Swim Team, Bluefins, Kumasi Dolphins, Torpedo, and the African Sharks. Now, each club received 1 infrared temperature gun and 10 pieces of hand sanitizer. Now, the pods are being prepared to befit the coronavirus pandemic directive given by the President, Nana Akufo-Addo. Now, the athletes are expected to start training this month. But before we do go, let's take a visit to the Joy Sports Instagram handle, where we'll be seeing the latest reactions from various stakeholders as to what has happened with the big decision taken by the GFA, cancelling the league. And we'll be seeing what some of these reactions are. And as you can see, finally, the GFA decided to cancel the league on Tuesday. Predictably, a flood of reaction for and against have followed. We can check the next slide. Now, this one is from Frederick Moore, who is the CEO of Hearts of Oak. He says that we're into football and would have preferred to play, but if the Executive Council decision is to cancel, then we respect that. With everything that's going on, is probably the best decision. Then we move to the CEO of Hazakis, that's Parkway CSN, and he says that, as you know, we were doing very well in the Division 1 league, so we're unhappy about the cancellation. We would also like the FA to financially compensate us. And then we have Frederick Champon, who says that there's a government ban on contact sports. Even if we had the means to circumvent it, the protocols we need to observe would have been a challenge. Then Nana Mankwa, who is of Ken Faisal, said that it's good news for football fans and not the players, not only Ken Faisal. We thank God it will prevent us from getting the virus. We all wanted the best for our game. Now, officially, the GFA has not communicated with the clubs, and there must be other reasons for the cancellation of the league apart from COVID-19. So they are waiting, or he says that we are waiting till we get that information. I got the opportunity to watch the MPP primaries across various networks, and they did not observe the stated protocols, but we are ready to observe all protocols at the various stadia. We have specific number of matches to play, and our politicians are selfish. Imagine what happened during MPP primaries was to happen in a football game. The way people will bash us. Do you know how the cancellation would affect these footballers and club administrators? That's from Albert Comey, who is the owner of Techiman 11 Wonders. Then we go to Alex Ishon, and he also speak about we spend at least 30,000 to 40,000 cedis every month on the players and the technical team. Now the cancellation, he says, is long overdue. And the last slide just talks about the amount of money that the GFA will be losing, as we showed in the report earlier, stating that they will be losing an excess of $2.2 million from cancelling the league. But that will be wrapping it up for the sports segment here with me, Oreku Ampo. For bad news for you, Roland, because Chelsea are struggling to win against West Ham, and they are currently drawing 2-2.
We're definitely going to win that match. It's a London derby. And I know that when you go to West Ham, it's usually a very rowdy side of London. So, Charlie, other people will be winning. But don't worry, Rokwampo, thank you for the last update. Before we wrap up, though, we have to bring you the latest in JN Interactive. And the interactivity on JN Interactive is happening live again. I had to ask my director to make sure I go back to this post, even though we had many other related things we wanted to show you on our social media platforms. And we'll go back to this, but just because it's gaining a lot of traction, and it's a question about 6 years on, Occupy Flagstaff House, that hashtag that trended within the period. And so far we've had over 370 comments, and if you read the comment, this one from Fatman Godi says Ghana today is worse off than the previous administrative period. If all those organizers are milking the system big time, they are all hypocrites, and I know God will punish them for all the falsehoods they said to the previous government. Holistically, he also adds, and you can go on and read more of it. Abdul Hamid said, I supported it and I hated myself for it. We go up there and it says, free SHS can be accessed freely by the needy. There are no barriers to secondary education in Ghana. This is big. This is coming from Ama Di Hemomosa. We also do have Noble Kofi said, today what has changed? We are now witnessing more corruption, bad governance, high cost of living, and dictatorial rule or dictatorship rule, he says. And then this one, Nocios Maunyo says, very disappointed in this government. Osafo and his president are both fighting Domelevo. Let's go up. We have Isaac Ofosuhene. It's pathetic that the leaders are now doing worse than we thought when they were fighting for Ghana, but their stomachs. All right, so that'll be it for now. JN Interactive concluding the session this evening for Prime. I know you did enjoy it. Make sure that you log on to our Facebook page, Joynews on TV. We also do have a Twitter handle at Joynews on TV, and we have a YouTube channel where we do all the uploads of a great content right there. Joynews TV, go look for it on YouTube. But myjoyonline.com, I tell you, is the best interactive platform right now in Ghana. Go there, and all the aggregated content produced on Joynews and the rest of multimedia platforms right there. That'll be it for this evening. Have a good night.